Well, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, everyone. I told y'all we'd be live streaming today. I'll live stream tonight for y'all as well. I hope y'all are with your families, but maybe you can sneak away just for 1 second so we can talk about the fantasy football playoffs. Got some games going on later today. I'm going to go through every single injury update that we have. Hope y'all are having a fantastic day as usual, but I mean, today's a little bit special, so hope y'all are having an extra good day today. And yeah, we got a couple things going on for Christmas. A, we got the additional football games, and B, my God, y'all need to take advantage of this. Okay, so if for whatever reason y'all have not done so already and you want to get yours truly, someone who's been going out there and grinding these live streams, grinding these videos for y'all every single day. We've live streamed pretty much every single day for the past 6 months, like almost 200 days in a row. If y'all want to get me something special for Christmas, what you can do is you can go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. Underdog Fantasy is giving you something special for Christmas as well. Not only when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code FLOCK, they're going through and matching your first deposit dollar for dollar, which everybody knows by this point. I mean, if somehow you have not taken advantage of this deal, it's on you. But also, even if you've already signed up, they're going and giving you an additional deal for Christmas. And that's going to be this payout booster here, where, usually if you go through and you create a 5-player parlay, which I don't advise anybody doing. I mean, y'all have heard me say this time and time again in these live streams. If you go and create a 5-player parlay, with how small your chances are of hitting it, you're like lighting money on fire, and it's a very bad idea. Except this week. Because this week they have this payout booster where if you go through and you include Josh Allen in that 5-player parlay, we'll get to a couple of Josh Allen's receivers later on in the video. And we're actually going to make a parlay right now with Josh Allen at 270 total yards with his wide receiver core decimated. I mean, it looks like he's not going to have, we'll get to that later on, but we're going to take the under here against one of the best passing defenses in the entire NFL. And then we are going to go through and we are going to pick 4 other player props, and you can see exactly why we're doing this. Now, I think that if we're going to be looking for some additional lines, the under on Donovan Peoples-Jones and Baker Mayfield could be appealing here. Now, one issue is with all the uncertainty of games that are going to be played on Sunday with everybody being on the COVID list, you're not going to have as many options as usual. Of course, you have some games going on there for Sunday, but you know what? I need to be quick on my feet here. We need to go through and we need to make some of these bets ASAP. So instead, let's actually just go through and pick out these games at the very top. Let's go and let's look at Jacksonville as well as the New York. I'm sorry. We're not going to go to the Jets. Instead, let's stick it with these games that are going to be played today because we'll have significantly more options. Let's avoid this Cleveland game and let's create a parlay here. Let's make a bet that we are going to get a ton of passing volume from Aaron Rodgers. Actually, against the Cleveland Browns, I don't think that's a guarantee. You know what? We're going to do the opposite. We're going to assume that this game's not as high scoring as projected. We're going to take the under on Donovan Peoples-Jones, the under on Rodgers, the under on Baker. I mean, to go through and get some correlation and just say that this game's not going to be high scoring. And look, instead of that being a 20x bet, it's going to be a 50x because we included Josh Allen because it's Christmas weekend. You can do this on Sunday morning as well. We're just going to bet $10 here with a chance to win $500. Of course, not good odds. I'm sorry, not a good chance to win, but great odds on that bet. So we're going to bet 10 to win 500. That should be it. Let's go through. Let's talk about these injury updates. And our first update going to be going over, to the Baltimore Ravens, where Lamar Jackson, is most likely going to be missing this week. Surprisingly enough, it's not Tyler Huntley that's going to be replacing him. It's actually going to be a quarterback that I believe Josh Johnson, someone that doesn't matter. You are not going to need to play any Baltimore Ravens here outside of Mark Andrews. You can play the tight end because obviously the tight end over the middle of the field is going to be drawing targets that are just naturally at a higher catch rate, and you're going to see very bad quarterbacks not be able to push the ball to the boundaries, and instead they're going to lean on that tight end over the middle so you can play Mark Andrews. We're not playing any of the running backs for Baltimore anymore. At the same time, I don't think we can play Hollywood Brown, even though I thought Hollywood Brown would have been in a slightly intriguing spot to bounce back here. So yeah, I think that we have to avoid Baltimore like the plague. And then our next update is actually going to be my guy, Cam Akers. With Cam Akers here, he was activated off the IR this week. Something I was not expecting. Y'all know we've been getting a decent amount of 2022 drafts going on Underdog Fantasy as well. And I've been coming out and saying, oh, Cam Akers in Dynasty, Cam Akers in those 2022 best ball drafts on Underdog. I don't really like him, even though I love the talent, even though I love the offense. The issue is that devastating injury. Now here with Cam Akers being activated, I would be surprised if Cam Akers becomes some league-winning running back. I think if you're going over on Underdog and you're getting into some of their playoff tournaments, yes, Cam Akers should be a running back that you at least consider drafting the last round to get a unique player in a tournament built. But you shouldn't go through and assume that Cam Akers is going to do anything for you in your regular 12-team fantasy football league where you're right now in the semifinals because, I mean, even if Cam Akers comes back next week, which probably isn't likely, is he really going to be making that impact for you? And then our next update is one that I hate to say because we got a lot of money on the line on Travis Kelce. And actually, that's a lie. I have a $1,000 high stakes league that has Tyreek Hill, but those big dog drafts, those tournament drafts with the $100,000 on top, that's where we have Kelce. But we do have a $1,000 high stakes on Hill. But Tyreek Hill has cleared the COVID protocol and Travis Kelce is not. So at this point, obviously, there's not much analysis to go into this. You're playing Kelce. You're playing Tyreek Hill if they play. You're benching them if they sit. It's going to be something we have to continue to monitor. Reports are saying that, you still have a shot for Travis Kelce to clear COVID protocols, which, trust me, come on, big man, help us out here. We need Kelce in this game. I really need him. But as of now, it's funny because Kelce goes on the COVID list the day before Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill is the one activated. And you know who's not going to be activated this weekend is actually going to be Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler is not going to play, honestly, for the Chargers. I don't want to say this is a bad thing. They're going to be able to steamroll the Houston Texans regardless. I would think if I was Austin Ekeler, if anything, I'm just happy that we get the off week, happy that you get to go through and relax and save your legs for the real NFL playoffs here. So with Ekeler being out, I guess you can consider going over and looking at Justin Jackson, knowing how productive this Los Angeles Chargers offense should be. If you're looking at the workload that Justin Jackson got versus Joshua Kelly, Justin Jackson was definitely the replacement for Austin Ekeler when he wasn't 100% 2 weeks ago. So I would be the guy to go through and bet on Justin Jackson, not Joshua Kelly. And really quick, I forgot to say this at the top of the video. I apologize for this. If you have not dropped a like on the stream yet, drop a like. Who else is out here live streaming for y'all on Christmas? And let's get our next update here. This is going to be going over to Arizona, and James Conner is going to play today. Now, with James Conner playing, honestly, I think I would go through and look to avoid both James Conner as well as Chase Edmonds. Now, I'm expecting an overall bounce back from this Arizona Cardinals team. And y'all know I was of the opinion as soon as you had the Chase Edmonds injury that James Conner was a top 10 running back every single week. Now, the issue is if Chase Edmonds is going to come in and see half the snaps in this backfield, I think it's probably going to be a good spot to just go through and look to avoid James Conner. Especially since he did not practice all week here. So he did not practice all week, going to be playing a little bit later today in an offense that, has a banged up Rondale Moore, a banged up DeAndre Hopkins at the same time. I think you're not going to see the top 3 Arizona Cardinals offense that you're used to. I would probably look to avoid both James Conner as well as Chase Edmonds. And now let's go over to Carolina for our next update. Sam Darnold is going to play. And y'all know I'm not a Sam Darnold fan. Never have been a Sam Darnold fan. But I will say this is good news for DJ Moore. Now with DJ Moore, right now he's not officially been cleared to play. This is a wide receiver that I honestly was hoping that was going to miss this week based on some crucial matchups that I have where I'm going up against DJ Moore. But with DJ Moore, he actually got in a limited practice on Friday. This was a receiver that didn't practice at all this week. And with Sam Darnold, he is not someone you're starting in fantasy. Remember what we were saying with Cam Newton. We were saying when Cam Newton got signed to Carolina that you shouldn't get too excited because, if Cam Newton had any talent left whatsoever, he would have been signed to Seattle to play instead of Geno Smith. He would have been signed to Miami to play instead of Jacoby Brissett. He would have been signed to Washington the second that Ryan Fitzmagic had a significant injury. But with Cam Newton, he was going to be a good fantasy quarterback, not a real good real life QB, and we weren't going to be raising our expectations for DJ Moore with Cam Newton under center. I think that Sam Darnold's the exact opposite. With Sam Darnold, I know he had the rushing touchdowns at the beginning of the season, but if you go back and look at his entire NFL career, that's not necessarily something that's predictable going forward. I think that Sam Darnold is actually going to be a little bit better for DJ Moore than Cam Newton was, even though I'm not saying that Sam Darnold's a great real life NFL quarterback, but the passing volume will be a little bit higher. And now let's go over to the backfield for the New England Patriots. And looking at this, I mean, our guy that we were hating on all season may end up being a great play this week in Damien Harris, who still is questionable for this game with a hamstring injury. But Ramondre Stevenson placed on the COVID list. And now that Stevenson is on the COVID list, it looks like Damien Harris should see every single touch on first and second down here. Let me go through and pull up if we have Brandon Bolden this game. Obviously, if we have Bolden, I mean, he is going to be the running back that you're expecting to get usage on third down, as we've never seen Damien Harris to be able to be a running back that can catch balls out of the backfield. That's why we didn't really like him as everyone's favorite sleeper running back coming into the season, but that was so long ago. We don't need to harp on that too much. Okay, so let's pull this up. Brandon Bolden. Okay, so he did play last week. He is still questionable for week 16. If you have no Ramondre Stevenson and no Brandon Bolden, it doesn't matter if Damien Harris is banged up or not. It doesn't matter if this is a really bad matchup against the Buffalo Bills, who obviously have a really strong defense. You go through and you'd play Damien Harris everywhere you can. And now our next update will be Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders wasn't practicing at the beginning of the week, but remember, that was a Tuesday game, so you weren't expecting him to practice at the beginning of the week. Now he's completely off the injury report. Miles Sanders should be 100% good to go on Sunday, and it's going to be a great matchup as well, going up against the New York Giants. I know a lot of people probably want to focus in on the usage that Jordan Howard got, I mean, just last week, but keep in mind, if you're looking at raw touches there, not really telling the full story. What you need to focus in on is you need to focus in on the fact that Jordan Howard got a lot of those carries at the end of the game rather than the beginning. And then our next update will be going over to Pat Freiermuth, who's ruled out with a concussion for Pittsburgh. I don't necessarily know what we can do with this. I mean, maybe. No, you're not playing. You can't play Chase Claypool. I think really the only guy you're going to play is Deontay Johnson, but you're playing him regardless of if Pat Freiermuth is ruled out or not. Now, a storyline this week is going to be some nasty quarterbacks that we have starting. Obviously, you got New Orleans. I mean, you also have Chicago, where right now, the most recent report from RotoWorld, I didn't believe it when I read it, but it's there. Nick Foles should be starting for the Chicago Bears, something we have not seen in quite a long time. I think you start David Montgomery, as we've said so many times before, horrible offense, but if David Montgomery gets 80% of the touches out of the backfield, it doesn't really matter. You have to start him regardless. And in the case of what you're going to get from Darnell Mooney, Allen Robinson, you're just going through and you're just avoiding them everywhere you can. Don't even consider it. And then our next update going to be going over to Las Vegas, where Darren Waller is officially doubtful. So we have not had a single player this season be listed as doubtful, and keep in mind, that's not even an official listing. They're all questionable this year, which is horrible. But I don't think we've had a single coaching staff coming out saying, yeah, I don't think he's going to play, and then he ends up playing. So Darren Waller is as good as out. That means you have to go through. You have to play Hunter Renfrow despite the matchup. And then our next update, going over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you have no Mike Evans. Obviously, Chris Godwin out for the year. Obviously, Leonard Fournette out for the regular season as well. So that means Antonio Brown, who reports are coming out saying the ankle's as good as new. I mean, there's no lingering effect from that ankle injury. Antonio Brown is a top 3 wide receiver this week. Yes, a top 3 wide receiver. The only wide receivers I'd rank ahead of Antonio Brown are going to be Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp, and that's it. So I'm going through and I'm going to be playing Antonio Brown every single league that you have him. Unless you play in a league where you only start one wide receiver and you only have one flex spot and you also have Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams on that roster, you play Antonio Brown. When we live stream later tonight to answer those start-sit questions for Sunday morning, please do not bother asking me a question saying, do I play Antonio Brown or do I play wide receiver X? Because every single time I'm going to answer that Antonio Brown. Now, our next update will be Adam Thielen, limited in practice all week, officially questionable, but he should be playing. I mean, with Adam Thielen, he was a game-time decision this past week, and I think that this is a wide receiver that you could look to put in your starting lineup, knowing that Justin Jefferson should draw the matchup from Ramsey. I'd imagine Ramsey's going to play this week, and with Thielen, obviously, he has touchdown upside. And then our next update, Jared Goff, highly unlikely to play, going to be on the COVID list. Now, with DeAndre Swift, this is where it gets interesting, because once you remove Jared Goff and once you potentially add back in DeAndre Swift, I think you have to play Swift regardless of who's at quarterback. But, you know, Amari St. Brown. St. Brown was a wide receiver that we were saying was a must-play guy for you last week. He was a must-play guy for you the week before that as well, because you were looking at this offense with no TJ Hawkinson and no DeAndre Swift. And we were just looking at the volume that you were getting from Amari St. Brown every single week. Double-digit targets, double-digit targets, double-digit targets. And it was the easiest play ever. I mean, he was just Hunter Renfrow in Detroit. You were going through and you were playing him when he had that guaranteed volume. If you remove Jared Goff and you put in DeAndre Swift, St. Brown's going to be someone you have to bench this week. I would go through and I'd fade St. Brown this week, despite us playing him everywhere last week. Then our next update, speaking of some really bad quarterbacks taking the start, got Jake Fromm is going to be starting for the New York Giants. Not playing anybody from New York. I mean, you play Saquon Barkley. The issue with Barkley is, I mean, we thought that he was going to be essentially a better version of David Montgomery. I thought that he was going to be a running back that was in a horrendous offense that, I mean, was slightly better at catching the ball than David Montgomery was. So that was going to make him slightly better in fantasy because they were both going to see 90% of the touches out of their backfield. Well, the thing with Barkley, that's not happening. We were wrong. I don't know if it's because it's a contract year. I don't know if it's because the injuries he saw last season or, earlier this year. But they're using Devontae Booker a ton here. They're using Devontae Booker on 35% of the snaps, which you can't really be a running back seeing 70% of the snaps in New York and this being a bottom 3 offense in the NFL and then find success. I think you play Barkley, but I think he's more of a low-end running back 2 than a running back 1 as we thought he was going to be coming into the season. Then our next update will be going over to Antonio Gibson, questionable with the toe injury. Now, what's frustrating is if Antonio Gibson plays, you know this is a must-start running back for you in every single league because J.D. McKissic is on the IR. And we have seen so far this season that Antonio Gibson, with and without J.D. McKissic, is a completely different running back. I would say if you have like an option of maybe if you can look at Antonio Gibson or today, your other options, James Conner, I would honestly probably hold out hope for Antonio Gibson. I know you're rolling the dice here a little bit with him being a game time decision, but you could go through and you could look to, I guess, pick up Jarrett Patterson as a last second option. I would hold out hope just because we have no J.D. McKissic. Then our next update will be you have no Cole Beasley as well as you have no Gabriel Davis. So that means despite the toughest matchup in football, you're going to have to play Stephon Diggs. You're going to have to play Dawson Knox. Both pass catchers should see close to season highs in their target shares. Now, I'm not expecting that Buffalo is an extremely efficient or prolific passing offense this week, so they're going to be incredibly inefficient plays. But when the volume's going to be there, I think you have to play both options. And then we have a couple other updates that, were released earlier this week. You also have Leonard Fournette obviously out. That means play Ronald Jones. Now with Ronald Jones, I'm not ranking him where we had Leonard Fournette beforehand because with Rojo, he's going to be the first and second down running back here rather than the 3-down workhorse as we saw from Leonard Fournette. And then also we have no Kareem Hunt. And that means you play Nick Chubb every single league that you can. Y'all know I thought Nick Chubb was one of the worst picks in fantasy drafts when he's going in the first round this year because he's a committee running back. But if you take out, the other top running back in this backfield, you have to go through and you have to play Nick Chubb everywhere because at the end of the day, he, as we've always said, is the most talented committee running back in the NFL. Doesn't mean you should take him in the first round of fantasy, but does mean when the other part of that committee is out of this backfield, you go through and you play him everywhere. Now, let me hang around one more second just to make sure that we're not missing any other injuries. Please spam the live chat really quick if there was anything else that we missed that y'all want me to look up really quick. And of course, go check out Underdog Fantasy. You're not going to see that Josh Allen player prop thing at the very top because we made that bet at the beginning of the live stream. But remember, if you include Josh Allen in your ticket slip this week and you do a 5-player parlay, you get, instead of it 20xing, you get a 50x. So please, please, please take advantage of that. Use promo code FLOCK. Get your first spots matched dollar for dollar up to $100. Okay, so we got some people. Jay says Aaron Jones. Last I saw with Aaron Jones, looks like Aaron Jones should be 100% good to go. Peter's asking about Kelce. We already talked about Kelce at the beginning. We talked about Miles Sanders. Okay, so it looks like a lot of people asking right now. Really, Aaron Jones the only running back that we need to be giving an update with. Last I saw, it looked like Aaron Jones was going to be good to go, but let me see if there were any reports that came out after that. Yeah, so Aaron Jones yesterday was cleared for Saturday. The Packers managed Jones' pre-existing knee issue this week. Yeah, Aaron Jones, he was drafted in 2017. This is his 5th year. He's a 27-year-old running back. With Aaron Jones, he can easily be missing practice at the beginning of the week and then still be good to go on Saturday. Okay, so B-Boy says, oh, you can only do the 50x Allen thing one time. That makes sense. Oh, yeah, no, if you could go and make 100 bets, just different bets, including the Josh Allen 50x, Underdog would be bankrupt in the weekend. Of course, you can only do that one time. You can only do that one time. So please take advantage, though. And I think that should be it. Of course, thank you so much for everybody coming out and hanging out with us in the live stream. Hope y'all have a great Christmas. Make sure you go and spend it with your family. Hopefully, you can sneak away to set your fantasy football lineups. I think that's all I got for y'all. And remember, if you want to get me a Christmas present, I'm telling you right now, the best thing you can do is go to the link in the live chat, go to the link in the description of the video, use promo code FLOCK, make your first deposit, get a match dollar for dollar up to 100, get into a draft with us one of these nights, go check out some of these player props, whatever you want to do, but make sure you use promo code FLOCK. That supports the channel more than anything else, and I promise you, that will be the best Christmas present that I've ever gotten. Better than anything my family got me this year, better than anything my family has ever gotten me, will be you using promo code FLOCK on Underdog Fantasy. Thank you. Hope you all have a great day, and hope we get to see you out in the live stream later tonight.